Well, I'm Zack, the legal tech advisor here at Lawyerist, and today I have John Foreman with me, the Chief Products Officer at Clio. But I guess, John, could you kind of introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm John Foreman. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Clio. I've been doing software for maybe a couple decades. I was Chief Product Officer at a company called MailChimp and another company called Podium.
Never heard of them.
The interesting thing about my two previous gigs is as Chief Product Officer for companies that were horizontal. They served lots of different verticals.
Mm-hmm.
Clio's different because Clio only does lawyers. And that was an intentional choice on my part. I've been working in AI for a really long time. That's my background. And one of the things I had recognized, that a lot of people are recognizing is, hey, AI is best when it has like all the data. It can do all the things in the software.
Yeah, gotcha.
And horizontal software that's like, I just send emails, but I do it for everybody. AI can't help as much because there's not as much to do. And so I was looking for a company that was like, I want to do everything. Yeah. Because that's a company where AI can be really helpful.
Yeah.
And so that's why I ended up switching to Clio.
Okay.
And now I'm here.
So that makes a lot of sense because I walked into here, saw the keynote, and it is, here's a bunch of stuff that's going to do everything. I'm like, wait, hang on. It was Clio Manage and it was Clio Grow. And it's like, it is. It's like, no, it's Clio AI, buddy. Yeah. It's Clio Work. It's Clio Enterprise. It's all of that. So we have a lot of new things here.
Sure.
Can you kind of walk me through a little bit of what has been released recently?
Yeah. So there are a couple ways to maybe frame it and walk through it. You know, the big three chunks, if we're going to talk about chunks of stuff to think about and keep in your head, we have Clio Grow, which is helping folks grow their business, right? That's the first party marketing arm of the software. Then you have Clio Work, that's doing the substantive legal work of being a lawyer. And in that orbit, of course, is Clio Draft, which we've had for some time. Right? Yeah. So keep that in mind. And then you have Clio Manage, right, which is the long-time product, which is really helping you sort of move matters through their life cycle, project manage them, et cetera. Okay. In that orbit, you have all of the money stuff, the payments, the billing, the accounting, right? Yeah. So if you have those three big chunks, then when it comes to like all the new stuff, right? Think about in those three chunks, each of them, you got jobs you're doing, right? And what's really funny to think about is there are a lot of jobs you're doing in Grow and Manage specifically that you probably never went to law school to learn how to do. Yeah, right? Yeah. You're like, I got to run a website with like forms on it, and then I'm going to have leads come in, and I got to intake those folks and send them for a consult. Never went to law school for that. Right. Or, you know, in Manage, it's like I got to bill. Like I got to track my time. I got to assemble bills. I got to track my expenses, put them on the bill, et cetera, send the bills out, get the payment collected, et cetera. It's like, these are jobs people never even set out to do. So then it's like, all right, let's put AI on top of those to do those jobs. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Okay. And then in Work, it's a little bit different. Right? Work is like, this is where you're doing the thing you actually went to school for. AI can help. There are still jobs in there where it's like, I'm not going to have AI take the wheel, but I'm going to have AI be my co-pilot. Yeah. And so that's the idea there.
Okay. That actually
lay of the land, that help?
Yeah, that clarifies a lot for me because in the keynote, we were talking about kind of fusing the work we do as lawyers and the work we do as business owners, you know, into one kind of thematic thing. And I couldn't quite put work in there. So work is where the underlying like VLEX idea stuff comes from.
Yes. Yeah. So when you think about Draft, when you think about VLEX Library, now Clio Library, when you think about Vincent, these are all tools that are like, they're really about the main product, right? Which is like, if you were to compare, and this is, okay, look, I worked with a lot of different verticals. I don't mean to be insulting, but let's compare a law firm to a pizzeria. I think it's quite helpful. It's like, what ultimately is going to make a pizzeria popular? It's having good pizza. Yeah. Right. They do have to answer the phone. They do have to send out coupons. Yeah. Right. All that. Yep. Like, okay, that's fine. They also have to run as a business. Like there's payroll. There's all those things. But at the end of the day, if the pizza sucks, no one is going to enjoy this pizzeria. Yeah. Like Work is where you make the pizza. So when you think about, for instance, Clio Draft as a component of that, like, oh yeah, this is where I'm actually like, I use Draft to draft my actual, this is my work product, right? I have templatized it, but this is my work product. Very similarly, Vincent is there to help with like the substantive legal questions you have around like, okay, I want to know in New York, how do custody issues work with blah, 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 right? So you're doing the actual practice of law in there. That's where you're making that's the pizza part of the pizzeria.
Yeah. Sorry, like that. I'm going to put it in effect with my you like shattered glass sort of thing. Like that makes a lot of sense of where Clio Draft lives, where the I guess Clio Library now, right?
Yes,
is what it's called. And then Clio Manage. So we're talking about being able to use all these products kind of across your entire firm.
Yes.
Right. The thing that worries me in that is that Clio has always been, and I asked Jack about this yesterday, Clio has always been a product that has allowed people to be very versatile. Has allowed attorneys to kind of like work in their own stuff. We have tons and tons and tons of integration partners.
Yep.
As attorneys kind of get settled into the Clio ecosystem, what's going to allow them to stay nimble and potentially be able to, or are they going to be able to stay, I want to say, are they going to be able to stay nimble? Are they going to be able to connect with other products? You know, like if they want to connect with a different model, like something like that.
Yeah. So we'll have to be judicious in the sense it's like, okay, connect with a different model. Well, okay, we need to think about security. We need to think about where your data is flowing, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not going to just allow anything willy-nilly. But our intent is to continue to be an open platform, right? Like there's no reason why. And what's interesting actually is Jack, and I actually should have asked you what Jack's answer to this question was before I answered it. As the guy on the job 6 months, like I don't want to give an answer different from my boss. But like think about what Jack said yesterday. He talked about, you know, yes, we are serving small firms, right? And that's awesome. But we're also serving folks in the mid-market, and we're beginning to serve a lot of folks in the enterprise. And when you get into mid-market and enterprise, these are folks where they're like, hey, I need you for A and B. For C, D, and E, I already have something else I've selected. Yeah. Right? That's fairly common. And so actually our move into serving larger and larger firms is actually pushing us in some sense to be more open, right? And to partner with more folks. Yeah. Because, you know, people have different needs, right? So for instance, when we look at Vincent, right? In sort of the small space, what is my intent? Where I'm headed with this thing is like, we're going to have an amazing experience and manage an amazing documents experience that is going to pair super well with the AI. Now, when you look at enterprise, am I under any illusions that in 2025, an enterprise company is going to use the Clio document management system? They probably already have one. Maybe they're using something, I don't know, maybe they're using NetDocs or something, right? All right, we have to partner with them. We have to integrate with them. So we're being very realistic about this. And there is just so much work to be done that naturally there will be partners involved.
I like that. Sorry, I'm taking a minute to process these as we go, because I like that as an answer. And so Lawyerist is here. Most of our listeners, our clientele are small to medium sized firms. And so as we see the Clio go to enterprise, like open up to enterprise, it scares the shit out of some of us. Because you see that all the time where somebody has they've made their money, or they've made their name, let's say, on serving the underserved, like the solos, and that's tough to go out there and get 1 million people instead of one person, 1 million people paying $1 instead of one person paying $1 million. And so when a company like Clio goes into enterprise, it scares people because they go, well, are they going to pay attention to the people that don't have their pocket? So, and so
I have thoughts on that.
I hadn't thought about that actually being potentially beneficial. Because of the way that they operate.
It should allow more flexibility for everybody in terms of the products you select and the products you bring to the game. That said, I think the way to think about serving both SMB or smalls, et cetera, and serving enterprise, you have to think about the order in which you serve them. And it really affects whether you can be successful or not. So I'll give an example. The company Salesforce. Everyone knows Salesforce.
Yeah.
They seem to have a big building in every major city, right?
Yes, they do.
Salesforce started serving enterprise. And then what happened every time they tried to serve SMB? They suck at it.
Yeah.
Because going down market, all of a sudden, it's not just like maybe like, well, I just have to have a price point that's okay, and my customer service needs to be transactional. When you go down market, you realize, oh, there's a bunch of I never built. For instance, I need self-serve sign up. I need self-serve account management. All this stuff inside the product, you have to be able to configure it yourself, because if someone individually is buying it and they have to do everything themselves, it better be usable.
Right.
And that's been very basically Salesforce never cracked that. Ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going up market is different, because we have built Clio in such a way that you can use it yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what does it take to sell it to the enterprise? Well, you don't have to well, it's actually too easy. Let's make this software so that the enterprise can use it, right?
Let's piss off the IT
Yeah,
people.
it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So going up market then becomes, yes, there are things you have to build into the software in terms of flexibility in order for IT departments to be able to, we need lots of permissions. So I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. It's no big deal. But, a lot of it is really, it's about the people around the product, right? When you think about serving the enterprise, product doesn't have to change. The people who sell it have to change. The customer support people have to change, right? So now I've got an account manager, et cetera. So it's I don't think people should be scared that Clio might serve larger customers. In fact, it's really not going to change the fundamental business at all. It's going to perhaps help us build some customer service muscle, maybe build some partnership muscle.
Okay.
But it won't distract. It certainly won't distract me.
Honestly, that's good to know. Let's kind of dancing around the scale issue. And I say dancing around it because when I look at Clio and then Clio Enterprise, and from the SMB perspective, I also think, I could grow into that. Now I can kind of stay in that Clio ecosystem. What does that look like? And is that something that y'all are thinking about creating a normal way to go, I guess, from, you're sitting there with Clio Manage, Clio Grow, Clio Work, and you get a little bit too big for that and you need to go into Clio Enterprise.
Yeah. For each of these components, we're going to be thinking about what it means to grow with them and what it means to grow out of them, right?
Yeah.
And we have some clear cases where it's okay, we understand this. So for instance, Clio Manage has a natural handoff into Clio Operate, which is ShareDo, right?
Okay.
Similarly, Clio Work, VLEX has really been enterprise first with that.
Yeah.
And so we have a natural product in there where it's okay, we know actually how this particular product pulls out and works in enterprise. I would say on the Grow side, this is not something we have attacked yet. Frankly, the way the enterprise law firms market, you kind of wonder what upmarket. They probably have an agency they employ, right? And that agency probably use the trade desk and blah, 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 blah. So it's that might actually resemble a more ordinary marketing operation that might actually just use tools that aren't even legal specific at that point.
Right.
So for, a big piece that we're going to be working on this year into next year, et cetera, is not only making sure we have the appropriate staff to serve enterprise customers, but also for each of these areas that we serve, what does the enterprise version look like? And is one, do we want to have one?
Yeah.
Right? Why not? So,
okay. That makes sense. Yeah. You don't necessarily need to have the exact partner to Clio Grow in the enterprise area. Okay. So we've got a lot of things that shipped right now or somewhat recently. We've got a lot of products, and one of the things that Jack had said yesterday in to try to help alleviate my worries is that it's not necessarily about taking the same amount of people and same amount of effort and spreading it to enterprise. We're adding,
Yes.
it's additive.
Yeah.
And so with all of that additive stuff, how do you maintain a focus on all the individual products?
It's a good question. So yeah, first of all, it is additive, right? So I'm not going to take anyone working on, for instance, like there's a team on Clio accounting that is figuring out how do I make accounting work really well for solos, right? Mm-hmm. Anything you can do in QuickBooks, I want to be able to do it in Clio with less clicks. Okay. I'm not going to take a team like that and be like, congratulations. I have now taken half of your team and put them on enterprise, right? Like that. That's not what's happening, right? Yeah. We are actually, we are a well-funded organization. We make plenty of revenue. We are able to staff up folks who have expertise in enterprise, right? Mm-hmm. So, okay, cool. Now, you got people over here working on small. You got people over here working on enterprise. And the question is about organizational focus, mm-hmm. right? I mean, this is just company growing pains, right? There are companies, plenty of them, that serve all kinds of segments. And in fact, Clio is very good at this. So Clio already sells in 130 countries, right? So one of the things I had to learn when I joined was like, wait a second, you're telling me that the way you bill is like trust accounting works different in Perth, Australia than it does in Ohio. And you got to learn that, right? Yeah. And it's like, okay, one of these is not enterprise and one is not small, but one of them is halfway around the world and has different laws. Yeah. Very similarly, practice area, right? The way that personal injury operates, the way it makes its money, very different from wills and trusts. Mm-hmm. And so we already, if focus is a problem, we already have a focus problem, right? And so, right. What you're really thinking then about is, I mean, this is like the super boring answer to this question is like, this is organizational structure. Maybe at, Jack's level, there's a lot going on. Mm-hmm. And Jack has a lot of capacity in that big bald head of his. Mm-hmm. But there are people in the organization who have focus, right? So I don't know if you've met or talked to like AJ Axelrod, who's walking around here somewhere, right? He's our payments. Mm-hmm. He's our GM of payments. He thinks about payments all day long, right? So he's thinking about Clio Capital. Yeah. He's thinking about buy now, pay later, right? He's thinking about things like that. He's not distracted by, for instance, how we store documents, right? That's not his bag. So you maintain focus at, various levels in the organization that way. Mm-hmm. But this isn't a new problem for us. This is a problem we're actually very good at solving.
Okay. So talking about the amount of stuff that just got shipped, essentially, like at least in my mind, it just got shipped because I stood in there in the keynote and just like drank from a fire hose of products coming at me. Is that the type of speed that will maintain in Clio production, in like producing, iterating, and all that on these products?
I mean, I really enjoy being gainfully employed and having a paycheck. So it is my job to maintain a consistent pace of innovation, let's say, right? And really what's interesting to think about is like, what allows you to do that? It is not, contrary to popular belief, it is not Red Bull, right? What it is it's small teams getting connected with customers and working side by side with customers so they have a lot of focus, mm-hmm. and they get super jazzed because they're talking to people. So with each of these things that was talked about yesterday, when you think about Grow AI helping people with intake, or Manage AI helping people with scheduling orders, or Draft helping people create templates out of their documents and then helping people create questionnaires out of their templates. Each of those is a small team with some customers they've adopted. And the requirement that we have given our product teams is, hey, you're going to adopt at least 5 customers. And by adopt, I mean their cell phone numbers should be in the product manager's phone and y'all should be texting. That's the level of like, I want them to have the product. I want you texting them being like, hey, Bob, how's it going with, creating those templates? Yeah. How's it going with intake? Because that type of atmosphere, which is really, if you think about it, it's kind of like a startup type atmosphere. It's entrepreneurial. Yeah. It's allowing the team to mm-hmm. operate like a small company. That's what allows us to ship a lot. Because folks get super excited about what they're working on. They get to talk to the customer all the time. When you programatize that into some like well, we're going to ship this monstrous thing that's going to take 1 million years and has 1 million line items. And, we're going to have a program where we're going to release it to maybe 1,000 people. But that's where you start to slow down. Mm-hmm. And then there are times where you do that. And then there are times where, like with AI, it's like, man, this stuff is new. It's exciting. It can solve a lot of different problems. Let's start like getting it in the hands of some people and like get the feedback and go. And so that's what caused, I think, yesterday's keynote to feel the way it felt.
Yeah.
Was teams on the ground are they're working close with customers on lots of different problems. Okay. And it caused that.
Okay. Well, okay. So that's the, like what we're shipping that's new and things like that. What about the product as it stands, at every instance, the product as it stands at any moment, and kind of iterating over the questions that people have or the product features that people might want in kind of like the not quite as sexy areas.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is it. It's really interesting. Like I've talked to a lot of people at this conference about Clio accounting. And I know you just said the words not sexy, and I immediately said accounting. And I apologize to any accountant that might hear these words. We all know that accounting is just not sexy. My deepest apologies. But like, are these folks walking up to me asking like, how can you bring AI to accounting? No. They're walking up and they're like, hey, when it comes to importing Excel files, I needed to do X. When it comes to reporting, I need to have drill downs like Y. And they're describing very specific needs. I'm not going to say niche, but very specific needs.
Yeah.
And we have to keep a steady drumbeat on all of that work. That work does not get to be dropped. And this is like, okay, why do I have a job? Why is product management, which is, the career I have, why is it a job? It's a job because it is a balancing act, right? We have limited resources, right? We have limited people who write code. We're trying to grow fast, but we have to balance between innovation and then keeping the steady drumbeat of making these products just iteratively better and better and better. Then you have stuff that no one even really thinks about, like, oh, we're growing. That means we need more servers, or there's a new exploit out there. We need to be more secure, all that. So you're still working on sort of technical debt or infrastructure. Like there's all sorts of categories of work that we prioritize between. For me, the two biggest ones are, of course, innovation and iteration. And I think all the time about which products need what mix. And some products need just a heavy amount of iteration, and other products it's like, okay, on this one I'm going to put a brick on the gas pedal of innovation and try to just go.
Okay, that you put words to a thing that was in my brain, and it's something that I feel like everything has been exacerbated by artificial intelligence, but it's something that's been exacerbated by that, which that's a difficult word to say on the podcast, much like similarly. Yeah, so thanks for saying similarly. I literally try to avoid that one. But when we're looking at some of the things that we want to iterate over, there's a place where AI can, you can at this point sweep some things under the rug and say like, hey, artificial intelligence is going to go and help us deal with some of, I don't want to say a specific things necessarily, but, and I don't have a specific thing in my head. So, but artificial intelligence is going to help us get our data in order a little bit better than manually doing it. So we don't have to worry about this thing anymore.
I'll give you a good example of this, right? When I joined, the customer service team came to me and they're like, hey, when we set up customers at Clio, setting someone up on Clio Draft, takes just as long as all the other products combined. And the reason for that is building out their templates. Building out their templates sucks. And there were two options. One is the iterative approach. Hey, let's make our UI for building templates iteratively better. We could do this, we could do this, we could do this. The other option was, how about we take reference docs, we hand those reference documents to AI, and it builds the drafting templates for people. What's interesting about that is it's a different approach. It doesn't require you to build any UI because the AI does not need UI. It just operates on the documents and poops out templates. Right? And so this is an example of where you're trying to make those prioritization trade-offs and saying this new technology actually might circumvent a whole host of roadmap we would have built otherwise. And so those are like things we're thinking about every day for every product, right? Is that a problem we still need to solve the old way, or do we solve it in a new way?
Okay. All right. So it's my understanding you're a data guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously we need a lot of data for AI. There's kind of two different, trying to figure out exactly how to ask this. How are you using, how do you drive product creation with the underlying data? And I guess what I'm getting at is kind of how attorneys can be using data in their own worlds to drive their own firms.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. To somebody, thank you. Finally.
There are two things I think about with AI. One is context, just data going in. These are kind of the nouns. What do you have access to that you're going to eat? You think about what AI does. Well, what LLMs do, they eat data and then they spit something out, right? And those are the actions or the verbs. The AI does blah, right? And so all day long, I'm thinking about those verbs actually first. What can the AI do for people? And then you have to think about, well, if it's really going to do that job, what data would it have to have in order to do that job?
Yeah.
And so the way then I think about data is in service of those verbs. So for instance, I would like to get to a point where the AI had increasing amounts of matter context to the point where it had everything. So for instance, today, Clio doesn't necessarily have all recorded, transcribed, and summarized phone calls and Zoom calls, and perhaps even in-person meetings, depositions, et cetera, inside of it. If it did, what would that allow us to do? Not only would it allow us to key up better tasks and follow on action items, it would also allow us to provide better summaries to clients. Hey, this is what we talked about. These are the key dates coming up, et cetera. Today, we can do some of that. We have some of that data. I want more of it. Why? Because it allows the AI to do a more fulsome task. So then the second part of your question was like, how then should our customers think about this? I think they should think about it in the same way, because we already have some AIs that operate in this way. In particular, Vincent, inside of Clio Work, operates this way. It can do a whole host of things, whether that's like, hey, create a timeline for me, or do tabular review for me, et cetera. In order to do those things well, it's got to have data to eat.
Right.
So the documents that you put in Clio are what it has access to do those jobs, right? And so getting organized, having all that data available, it just provides more fuel for these AIs to work with in order to provide you better output. And people should, I should probably say this before we go, which is like, people shouldn't worry about putting that stuff in there, right? Like, we're going to make it available for your instance of the AI, but it's not going to go anywhere else, right? We're going to protect it so it's just available to you. But, I think folks should be thinking about this the same way I think about it, which is like, hey, the more of my matter I can provide to the system, the more jobs it can do for me. And my goal as Chief Product Officer is to release more and more tools to use that data in more interesting ways to help you get your job done. But even now, there's just a ton of power there with what we have already with Grow AI, Manage AI, Vincent, et cetera.
Does that adjust your integration strategy? Like integration with products?
In terms of getting data in?
Yeah, in terms of getting data in, because in one way, it's like, well, we want the data inside of Clio, in order to be able to do this. And another way, well, the integrations let Clio be flexible.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a really good example of this. Are we ever going to have the best email client? No. I think Outlook and Gmail have probably already won that game, I'm not interested in fighting that.
That's a good point.
However, if you look at legal, there's a ton of data in email. Email is the number one or number two communication channel for lawyers, period, depending on how you look at it. It's either phones or email. So, okay, there's a ton of data there. Then I think about that from a partnership perspective, right? Like while I may not want to build an Outlook competitor, God help me.
Good luck.
I want to come alongside Outlook. I want to be able to ingest the emails that are most relevant to each matter. I want to have that context, that data inside of Clio, accessible. I might even want to triage my email, right? So like, yeah, there's Outlook that is your master, just like blah, everything's in there. But if you want to understand what emails are most important, maybe you go to Clio, et cetera. So thinking about having all of this data in one place for the AI to work on it does affect how you think about integration, how you think about partnerships. 100%.
Okay. All right. Before we go, what is something products wise that A, you can talk about, and B, you're excited about, even if it's something that exists right now?
Even if it's something that exists right now.
What are you most excited about products wise right now?
Yeah. So when I think about Clio Work, obviously it's a really big deal and it's got us pumped. But there's a lot of work to do in that space. And I'll give you some examples, right? Inside of Work, we've got a few different products. We've got Draft and we got Vincent. Both Draft and Vincent can technically draft things.
Yeah.
Right? I would love for them to be able to collaborate together. What does that look like? Maybe that looks like an editing space between them, right? Now, I talked about sort of the pizzeria metaphor. I'm making my pizza here. I want to be able to like sling that pizza around. So now I'm beginning to think about inside of Work also like Clio File, right? And I'm going to create these work products, but I also want to move them. I want to deliver them, delivering the pizzas. I want to deliver them to where they need to go, right? So I think inside of Work, what we are going to find, because that's a workspace that actually contains many products, we're going to find that these things can hand off between each other really well. And so we just need to build up a lot of connective tissue.
Okay.
And that connective tissue between those products is what has me pumped for the next year. My hope is I come back to ClioCon a year from now and a lot of that connective tissue is built up and it's helping people use these products together in ways that are super effective to streamline everything they do. So
awesome.
Anyway, that's got me pumped.
Awesome. That is great to hear. John, this is really helpful. I knew that talking to you was going to be helpful, but this has, I hope that for people listening to this has solidified like where some of these things live, where Work and Manage and Grow all live in relationship to each other. I appreciate it.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
Happy to talk.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Thank you. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah.